All right, buckle up, everyone, because we are diving headfirst into day one of the India versus Australia test match.
Ooh, this is a big one.
Oh, yeah, this rivalry is the stuff of legends, and we've got sources covering every single over of this first day.
It's a 5-day match, 2 innings each.
Exactly, so like a cricket marathon.
And whoever ends up with the most runs, they're the winners.
You got it. And let me tell you, this particular day, it was absolutely wild.
Wild good.
Wild good, wild exciting, wild everything. We're talking record-breaking bowling. We've got shock dismissals, and, well, you'll see. It came right down to the wire.
You're really selling this.
Well, that's because it's true. By the time we're done with this deep dive, you're going to feel like you were right there in the stands. So, to set the scene, we're starting in Perth, Australia.
Ah, Perth. Now, that is a place where the pitch, that's the strip of ground the bowlers bowl on, is notoriously fast and bouncy, notoriously tough for batsmen.
Oh, I can imagine. And the experts were saying whoever won the toss, to decide who bats first.
Yeah, they'd have a massive advantage.
Exactly. So India wins the toss, and they decide to bat first. Seems like a pretty solid move, right?
Seems like it.
But wait for it. India gets bowled out for only 150 runs.
Oh, wow. That's a lot lower than anyone was predicting.
Way lower. Everyone was caught off guard.
So did Australia just bowl unbelievably well, or were India having a bad day? What happened?
Well, it's a little bit of both, to be honest. I mean, that Perth pitch, it's classic Perth. Fast, bouncy. And our sources say there was this surprising amount of seam movement.
So the ball was doing bit?
Yeah, doing a bit too much for the Indian batsmen. But you also can't discount the skill of those Aussie bowlers. And then, of course, you've got Jasprit Bumrah on the other side.
Bumrah, India's star bowler.
The man, the myth, the legend. I mean, seriously, the sources are raving about his performance. Some are even calling him the game changer.
And what do you think? Was it all Bumrah, or was he just, lucky to have that pitch working in his favor?
Well, he was definitely helped by the conditions, but his skill is undeniable. This guy can swing the ball both ways. He finds that extra bounce. He had the Australian batsmen just completely flustered. He took crucial wickets.
And a lot of them bowled an LBW, right?
Exactly. Which is really interesting because remember, India only got 150 runs themselves, but they managed to take 7 Australian wickets. And like you said, a lot of them bowled or LBW. Whereas Australia, they got all their wickets from catches.
It's like they're aiming for the stumps rather than trying to get those, what do you call them?
Edges.
Yeah, edges to get those catches.
And this seems to be a bit of a pattern for India. Didn't they do something similar in their last 2 series wins against Australia?
You know what? You are absolutely right. They've been focusing on attacking the stumps, and it's proving really effective, especially against Australia. It forces the batsmen to play more defensively.
Makes it harder to score runs.
Exactly. And that creates more opportunities for, you guessed it, bowled and LBW dismissals.
Fascinating. It's like they found this secret formula for playing in Australia. Now let's talk about some of those Australian batsmen who fell victim to India's, attack, I guess you could call it. The sources mention a few dismissals that were particularly, interesting.
Interesting.
Yeah, memorable, let's say. So first up we have Nathan McSweeney. This was his debut match, poor guy. And unfortunately for him, it was a very rough start.
Oh no, a duck on debut.
Not quite. But Bumrah got him out early, which is always a tough break, especially for your first time at bat in a test match.
It must be nerve-wracking.
Yeah, I can only imagine. And then even some of the more experienced batsmen like Usman Khawaja.
Oh yeah, Khawaja. No, he's a good player, but
We have this weakness, right?
he really struggles with balls that angle in towards him.
And Bumrah, well, he knew that. He bowled this ball that moved just enough to catch the edge of Khawaja's bat. And that was it for him?
Smart bowling.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But the dismissal that really shocked me, I have to say, was Stephen Smith getting out for a duck. Are you kidding me? This is Stephen Smith we're talking about.
Yeah, he's supposed to be one of the best.
Exactly.
Right.
It was definitely a surprise. There's been a lot of debate recently about what his ideal batting position is, but honestly, on this day, it didn't seem to matter where he was. The conditions were tough, and the Indian bowlers were just on fire.
Speaking of which, it wasn't just Bumrah who had a good day. There was also a debutant fast bowler, Harshit Rana, and he looked pretty impressive.
Oh, Rana was fantastic. He took the crucial wicket of Travis Head, bowling with this incredible mix of pace and accuracy. And the most impressive thing I thought was how adaptable he was.
Adaptable?
Yeah, he adjusted his bowling strategy throughout the match. You could tell he was really thinking about the game, about the conditions, about the batsmen. It was great to see.
Real game awareness.
Absolutely. So we've got this mix of experience and young talent on display for India. But we can't forget about that pitch. It sounds like it was an absolute nightmare for both sides.
Oh yeah, that seam movement. Apparently it was crazy. Way more than you'd normally see in Perth. It made batting a real challenge.
And in the middle of all this chaos, you have a debutant batsman for India ready.
Yeah.
He comes in and scores 41 runs.
41. Wow, that's pretty good for a debut, especially on a pitch like that.
Right. It really shows his resilience, his technique, and his, I don't know, mental strength. To face a hostile bowling attack on a tricky pitch like that, you got to have guts.
For sure.
So at the end of day one, what's the situation?
Well, Australia is, how do I put this, not in a good spot. They're trailing by 83 runs and they only have 3 wickets left.
Talk about a cliffhanger.
It was a roller coaster of a day. Both teams had their moments. But yeah, going into day 2, Australia has a lot of work to do.
No kidding. So that's it for part 1 of our deep dive.
Can't wait to see what happened next.
Me too. We'll be back soon to break down all the action from day 2 and beyond. Don't go anywhere.
Yeah.
All right, so we left off with Australia in a bit of a pickle, 83 runs behind, and only 3 wickets left. You said it, a lot of work to do.
Yeah, tough ask.
So what happened next? Did Australia manage to claw their way back, or...?
Well, they fought hard.
They did. Yeah, they did. Mitchell Starc, he came in and really showed some grit with the bat, added some valuable runs to their total.
Yeah, they put up a good fight.
They did. But those Indian bowlers, they just kept the pressure on, you know?
Relentless.
Yeah, relentless is a good word for it. And eventually, well, Australia was bowled out for 219.
So despite the effort, they still ended up with a first innings deficit.
Yep, 66 runs behind India.
Okay, so that means going into India's second innings, the pressure was really on Australia's bowlers, right?
Big time. They knew they had to bowl exceptionally well to get back in the game.
And on the flip side, India, they needed to build a substantial lead.
Exactly. And it wasn't all smooth sailing for them at the start. No.
Yeah.
They lost a couple of early wickets. Australia started to think, maybe we've got a chance here.
Ooh, a glimmer of hope.
That's right. But then Cheteshwar Pujara and Virat Kohli came together at the crease. These two, they're the backbone of India's batting lineup.
A formidable pair.
Oh, absolutely. And they put on a masterclass.
What was it about their partnership that really swung the momentum back in India's favor?
Patience, technique. They just blunted that Australian attack, you know?
Weathered the storm.
Yeah, weathered the storm, steadily added runs to the scoreboard. It was textbook test match batting.
So by the end of day 3, how much of a lead had they built?
Oh, it was a commanding lead by then. 249 runs.
249 runs. That's massive in a test match.
Huge advantage. Puts immense pressure on the other team.
So day 4, did Australia just crumble under that pressure?
Well, there were some cracks showing, that's for sure. But you got to give credit to Uthman Khawaja. He played a brilliant innings, scored a century.
Wow, a century. Under the circumstances, that's impressive.
It was. Showed incredible composure under pressure. But even with that, even with Khawaja's century, the Indian bowlers, they never let up.
They just kept chipping away.
Yep. Eventually, Australia was bowled out for 361 in their second innings.
Okay, so what does that mean for India? What was their target to win the match?
113 runs.
113. That sounds achievable.
Oh, it was. They batted confidently and chased it down with ease. Won the match by 6 wickets.
Dominant performance.
Yeah, they really took control of the match and never looked back.
Now, you mentioned earlier that Australia had their moments. Were there any times where it looked like they might actually pull off a miracle comeback?
Well, Stark's batting on day 2, that was crucial. And then, of course, Khawaja's century on day 4 gave them some hope. But overall, India were just too good. Their bowlers were outstanding, and the batsmen, especially Pujara and Kohli, they showed real resilience.
So strategically speaking, what were some of the key takeaways from this first test? What can we learn from it?
Well, for India, their strategy of attacking the stumps, it worked brilliantly. For Australia, they need to find a way to counter that. And, you know, every pitch in Australia is different. Some are fast, some are slow, some spin.
Unpredictable.
That's it. The weather can change everything, too. So adaptability is key.
So going into the rest of the series, lots to think about, lots of questions.
Can Australia bounce back? Can they figure out how to handle India's bowlers? Can India maintain this level of performance? It's going to be fascinating to see what happens.
All right, so as we wrap up our deep dive into this incredible test match, one thing's for sure, this series is going to be a nail-biter.
Absolutely. It's far from over.
Not at all. I mean, India drew first blood, but you said it yourself, Australia had their moments.
They did. They've got the talent, but they need a plan.
Yeah, they need to figure out how to handle that Indian bowling attack.
Especially that attack the stumps strategy. It really disrupted them.
What's amazing to me is how, I don't know, dominant India has looked in Australia lately.
2 series wins in a row, now this?
Exactly. It makes you wonder, is this like a new era of Indian dominance down under?
Could be. This Indian team, they're young, they're confident, they have a strategy, and it's working. But don't count Australia out just yet.
Oh, of course not.
They're a proud cricketing nation.
They're not going down without a fight. So looking ahead, what are some of the key things that could determine the outcome of this series? You've talked about the pitches in Australia, how they can be unpredictable.
Yeah, every pitch is different. Fast, slow, bouncy, spin-friendly, it all depends. And then you've got the weather.
Oh, yeah. The Aussie weather can be a bit, well,
Chaotic.
chaotic's a good word for it.
Yeah.
So the team that can adjust to all that, the team that's most adaptable, they're going to have the advantage.
100%. And that's where I think India has the edge right now. They've shown they can adapt. Their bowlers are versatile.
Their batsmen are patient.
Exactly.
This has been an amazing deep dive. I mean, we've seen it all.
Brilliant bowling, some gutsy batting, and some really interesting strategic battles.
As we wrap things up, what's the one big takeaway you want our listeners to remember from this match?
Test cricket, it's not just about individual brilliance. It's about strategy. It's about mental toughness. It's about adaptation. And right now, India is ticking all those boxes. But Australia, they still have a chance to turn things around.
They're going to have to figure out India's winning formula.
Fast.
Well, folks, there you have it. The stage is set for an epic series.
I can't wait to see what happens next.
We need either. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the first test between India and Australia. Until next time.